Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Liverpool Connection Podcast. I am Daz, and this is my football and music 101 versus 1 or one-on-one episodes that I like to do where I bring on a musician to talk about Liverpool and talk about their musical journey. And I've got a great guest. I always say this, but I really do mean it. I've been on and on to try and get this guest on for the longest time, probably the longest in my 3-year stint as a podcast host. I, as everyone knows, I grew up in the 70s and 80s where music really was a massive part of my life. And this man has been a part of my life as well, growing up this same part of the country, and listening to his music inspired me to branch out and listen to other people's music. But I am privileged and honored to welcome Eddie Lundon from China Crisis. So Eddie, welcome to the podcast. I know we've been chatting for the last 10 minutes, but officially you are on the Liverpool Connection podcast now.
Well, thank you for having me. I apologise that it took so long. Well, just a big hello to you and to all your listeners and viewers.
Well, let's delve right into it. I mean, you're a Kirby lad, aren't you?
I am. I was born in Kirby, yeah.
Phil Tomo, comes
Mike
from there.
Marsh, Phil Tomo.
Yeah. A lot of Liverpool players. So take me back, to your childhood, and was your household, was it half and half? Was it Liverpool, Everton? Were your parents like big footy supporters?
It was all red household. Which considering there was 10 of us, it was a big family. So there was 4 boys, 4 girls, and my mum and dad. When I was born, and I'm the youngest as well. Out of the 8 kids, I'm the youngest. So when I was born in a place called South Dean in Kirby, and we only had a 2-bedroom flat. So my mum and dad were in one room, and there was 8 kids in the other room. So that was a bit, but I don't remember any of that. I was obviously far too young. And then they moved us out of that because we were such a big family, and they put us in a 4-bedroom house in Westvale, and that's where I remained until probably early 20s, till started releasing records and everything at that point. Yeah.
Did you finally get to sleep on a bed?
I never had my own bed until I was 16.
Jeez.
So you probably know how it was then growing up, so my mum and dad had their room. There was 4 boys in the other room. That was 2 beds in there, and we were top and tail. And then there was 3 sisters in another bedroom, and then the eldest sister had this little box room. So yeah, I never had my own bed until I was 16.
Yeah, my dad used to work on the airport tarmac, so I basically grew up the first few years in a caravan. So
really, yeah.
I never really had a bed either, So I mean, I would like to say maybe I'm part Jippo. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, just following me dad in a caravan, and he just work on that. So yeah, a bed.
It's nuts though, Dazza, because it is truly nuts now. Because obviously times are so different, and I do a little bit I do like only one day a week because we're still touring so much and recording so much. But I do one day a week teaching at the Paul McCartney School, the Paul McCartney Institute in Liverpool. And if it tell like students or whatever the circumstances of like the upbringing and being so many and all that, they truly believe that you're lying. They think that's like Victorian days, or you just can't get their heads around. Well, hang on a minute, most of them kids, they come from like either there's 2 children in the family, or they're the only child, and very wealthy to go to a school like that. And you just don't get the heads around it, the way you were brought up in them days.
Yeah, I mean, sleeping in your own beds now is, like everyone, most people have a bed, and I mean, but for you with all your siblings as well. So obviously, did you have Liverpool bedspread, or was that non-existent as well?
That was not. We couldn't afford anything like that. I did when I eventually had children. I did get Liverpool bedspreads for them. All the things that we could afford when we were kids. I kind of yeah, exactly. I get them from the kids. Exactly how it is. But it was great being brought up in a big family like that because, well, for one, the boys, you've got the sporting side of it, being brought up with a great club like Liverpool and that. And the girls and everything, a lot of the music comes from that side. Like my sisters were avid, like, Motown, Stevie Wonder and Bowie and that kind of thing. And religiously listening to the top 40 charts every Sunday and that. So you kind of brought up with the best of both worlds, really. So I was kind of lucky to that extent.
When was your first experience then with Liverpool? Because obviously you're probably in the same boat. First, I mean, it was my granddad that took me. Because he would save his money all the time, make sure that I go. But for you, especially in a household, like that.
Do you know what? It was really cheap. When we were kids, it was cheap to go to. It wasn't expensive. And I used to go to the boys' pen. You remember the boys' pen, which was attached to the cot. And what you do in them days, you go and you pay into the boys' pen, and you climb out of the boys' pen and climb into the cot. And that's what all the kids used to do at the time. And I don't actually know what year the boys' pen got demolished. But I must have started going round about, I'd say, 9 or 10 years of age, because my older brother, he would go home and away to every single game, and he'd hitchhike to most of the away games. And, you just walk to the east, it's called the East Lancashire Road, for the listeners that don't know. And that was like between here and Manchester, basically the main road that will get you anywhere, that will get you nearer to most motorways, or will get you out to Yorkshire way or Manchester way. And you just go and you hitchhike and go home and away, And so it was kind of him that started bringing me. My neighbours as well were really good, football fans. He was just a couple of doors away, the Cunninghams. So I would go. We would go a lot of the time. We'd go away together. But that was kind of later on in senior school and after I left school. And even to be honest, when I was first, when the band was first starting, that I would go away a lot. Well, really, right through to the 80s. I only actually stopped going to away matches after Hillsborough. That was when I stopped. So if it wasn't touring or wasn't in the studios working or whatever, I would try and get to as many games as I could, but I was at Heysel and I was at Hillsborough, and it was after them events that I just basically, I'm not going to no more away games anymore, So
well, I mean that's understandable. Those 85, 89 were
85 and 89, yeah,
very tough. That's when football just changed for me as well.
Yeah, it was kind of strange for me because 85, we were at the top of our career, in the charts all the time. Black Man Ray, King of the Catholic Star, Flaunt the Imperfection, which we did with the guys from Steely Dan, and that was a massive album. And so after 85, it was a strange experience for me, Daz, to be perfectly truthfully honest, because I was in the stadium, I was in the end where it all went off and everything. And I swear to God, I left that stadium heading back to the airport because I remember I had the old Brave Whistle Test TV show the next day. So I had to get back into London. And I was totally unaware, totally oblivious that anyone had died or anything until I got to the airport. I was watching it on the TV, just going, "Oh my God," you know. And that's when it dawned on me what the enormity of what went on that day. It was quite incredible. Very the opposite at Hillsborough, because I was in the stands at Hillsborough and could view all what was going on in the Leppings Lane area. So that was very, very different. You could see all that spilling out onto the pitch. But it's kind of a strange experience when you're actually in the crowds and all that was happening and you're unaware of it. You know there's pushing, there's whatever, but you're unaware of the enormity of the tragedy that was unfolding around you. It was bizarre.
Well, I mean, being back in the cop in the early 70s and 80s was the same thing.
It absolutely was.
When we're getting close to the goal, everyone push.
And do you remember they used to have the crush bars there as well?
Yeah. Whenever you get there, you make sure you know where near those. Like my granddad would always. I mean, a lot of the times I'd be on his shoulders. There, he would make sure we're nowhere near that because it was a massive push. So, yeah, I mean, how we all grow up and we love our team and stuff. But those 2 dates, years really made me just think of me family more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like football was just put on the burner for a while.
Well, I think I'll tell you, I never spoke about it for years. I never spoke about what happened or anything. I just suppose it just kept it all in, really. It's just a bit. But if anyone asks now, I just go, yeah, I was there. What can I say? I was at both of them.
Well, I mean, we're told at a young age, aren't we? Like a lot of people from Merseyside, like be a man. Even when you're youngster, be a man. Don't cry. Just you don't need to.
Don't show any emotion. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think that's what happened with a lot of people back then. They just kept it inside, and it just ate at them. And nowadays is a lot better. Like with the mental health, you can go see therapists. You can your mates. You can actually talk to your mates about what's going on in life.
It is. It's
put an arm around you. But back then, it was very like hush hush.
Oh gosh, yeah. It was unmanly, like to put an arm around someone. It was just like, But I am thankful the world's grown up a little bit more now, and you are allowed to kind of let some of them emotions go and that is people that you can talk to and all that kind of stuff.
Well, going back to that time as well, it was also tough because, I mean, we had an amazing Liverpool team in the 80s.
That's incredible.
And again, those 2 events really took the shine off the team because,
Well, it is, and if you remember, after when it happened in '85 at Heysel and everything, not only did Liverpool get the ban on that from Europe, but we also imposed a self-ban on ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. So it lasted for about 10 years or something like that, our exile from Europe, and the team and everything, it kind of just languished, because as you quite rightly say, before that, it was unbeatable, unstoppable, it was such a force, Liverpool football team. And I think it actually harmed the club, going into that exile and going out to Europe and that such a long period of time. We came back and we couldn't compete with half the teams. United obviously took over us, and started winning everything, and well, obviously, it was you'd have the first division as well. It wasn't the Premier League and all that. You remember obviously well. We never even won the Premier League for 30 years. We couldn't even win it. Everton won it before us. Blackburn won it before us. We never got it until the pandemic and lockdown. So that was. So I mean, I think the team itself was really harmed through all that, and a lot of it I think stemmed from the going into exile out of Europe and everything, and just not being able to compete. I think it set the club back for such a long way, really.
Who was one of your who was your poster footy player back then? Mine was Keegan for a year until I ripped his poster up.
Keegan obviously great, but if you're talking about behind you there, you've got the classic Shankly picture, and Shankly was like one of my dog was called Shanks. It was just that's how embedded it was in the family. So Shankly was obviously a hero. Keegan, amazing. I love the Keegan and Toshack connection. But I loved other players as well before then, like Brian Hall and obviously Stevie Highway and that. And then when Keegan went, I mean, Dalglish was just unstoppable. He just became, because I think like most people from Liverpool, when Keegan went to Hamburg, no one knew how he was going to be replaced. Mm-hmm. How do you replace Keegan? So no one expected this little Scots kid to come along, and all of a sudden, bam, So that was great. That was incredible. Getting a replacement for Keegan in someone like Dalglish was just a stroke of genius.
Yeah, I bawled my eyes out when Keegan left. Just because I mean, again, my first match was when I was 6, so I only got to witness Keegan for a year, but what I saw just blew my mind.
Mental! Yeah, he was a Scunthorpe lad, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe. Yeah, that's where he started as well. So and I couldn't see past Keegan. So obviously, I
don't think many. To be fair to you, Daz, I don't think many could.
Yeah,
no one's seen him Dalglish. That was like. Yeah, I don't think many people could. So that was the beauty of it in a way.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about our team is now, we've had so many players come and go, amazing players, and I don't even think twice anymore to go, this next player that's coming in. Well, maybe Andy Carroll.
Yeah.
I was a
bit of a setback there.
Yeah,
he was doing well when we got him at Newcastle and things, but yeah, I think that was probably one of the chinks in Liverpool's in their recruiting, let's say. But certainly with strikers amazing. If you Robbie, Michael Owen, Johnny Aldridge, even Paul Walsh, our little Spanish lad, Torres, the recruitment for the strikers has been second to none. To none. It's incredible that the way we do that. I wish we had the same, kind of vision for the defence sometimes, but we never seem short on scoring goals. We never really have them. Even Stan Collymore. It's great when he was there, Stan.
That's the thing, that, like I said, like I don't second guess anymore. When we bring players in, we just always seem to bring in better. I mean, for Kenny, for me, just not only on the pitch but off the pitch, what he's brought to Liverpool. Another great Scotsman. He lives and breathes Liverpool, and watching him on the pitch as well, command, everywhere on the pitch he was, and I miss those days. I mean, it's great to see the teams of like Rafa and Brendan brought, and then obviously watching Jurgen's teams. But there was something about those 70s and 80s teams for me.
Oh, God, yeah. Ainsley. What can you say?
Yeah.
It's just a genius, an absolute genius. But it's true what you say about the city as well. I think that if players come to the club and they embrace the city really embraces them back. Really, and there's a load. Jurgen loves the city. Xabi Alonso loves the city. We've had some great players come through. We just, Liverpool. So the club must be doing something right to embrace them, and the city itself really embraces them.
Yeah, I just read a little thing. Suso, who used to play for us. Well, more so in like just squad player. When he first came, he was 16 when Rafa brought him, and he stayed with a family that had, I think, 3 sons as well. And he's just saying he stayed in touch with that family. He brought him over for when Sevilla beat Man United in the Europa League final. Was his present for them. But again, that connection is still there with so many ex-players. I was just in Vancouver a couple of weeks ago with Molby, Aldo, and Gillespie, and just listening to those 3 on stage, it took me back, many years, and I could not stop smiling. I mean, obviously, their jobs these days are, being booked as legends to tell these stories, but it never gets old, and it's always told in a different, a different way every single time. Because I've had Molby and Gillespie on the pod, and I've listened to a lot of their stories. So their stories on stage were a little bit different from what I heard on the pod, but it still came to the same end result, which is to entertain and make people smile, and and it gets many people that won't be able to get to Anfield. They get to see their heroes up close and personal, and
I was just going to say, Daz, I think Liverpool has a great relationship with the ex-players. I'm matey with Mark Wright and that. Mm-hmm. And, a Southampton kid, and played for the club. A lot of them ex-players do the hospitality and all that now. They all, work for Liverpool Football Club when they go into retirement and all that. And they're there and they're doing the hospitality. And so they're kind of looked after, even after the career, kind of as a player or whatever ends. There's a lot of them that are all doing, working the hospitality route and doing things for the club. So it is I think it's a family, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, well, you hear that word so many times, family, but it is.
Yeah.
They look after their own, just like, us supporters look after each other as well, as much as possible. I want to get back to what I know, beating Barca in the Champions League semi-final is probably everyone's, best game. But for you, growing up, what was one of your highlights of many highlights of being a Liverpool supporter?
Obviously,
what jumps out?
Well, God, you've asked a toughie there. The '86 FA Cup final against Everton, because we got the double that year, right? And I used to love Craig Johnson as well. I thought he was a great player for Liverpool. We got him from Middlesbrough, and I thought he was a great player for Liverpool. So that was a spectacular game. Obviously as well, because it was a Merseyside derby as well. So you can rub it in a bit. But in all honesty, one of the greatest games I ever went to was the Newcastle Liverpool game. can't even remember what year, that was about 96 or something like that, 96, 97 or something. The 4-3, and the Spiller was playing for them. I think he scored that night. And we had Robbie Fowler getting 2 and Stan Collymore getting 2. And we beat them 4-3, but I think we were 3-1 down at one point or something. I think we went into the lead in the beginning. Then we went down and came back and won it 4-3. That was like off the scales excitement. That was like one of the best games you could ever see. But you're quite right. I mean, people will say now, and say the Barcelona game, obviously, being 3-0 down in the first leg and then coming back and winning it is just outrageous. And also, obviously, the cup final as well, the European Cup final, where I think most people have probably walked out when we were 3-0 down there before Gerrard and Xavi and, and who got it? Was it Smikes got the other one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Smikes.
Yeah, so I think there's just a catalogue of great games that you could go through, isn't there? And all of them like such special memories. I mean, we've just named 3 different things there. We named the league, the FA Cup final, the Champions League final. Some great games.
Did you go to Istanbul?
I didn't, as I said to you before. Well, I tell her like Kim, my partner. She's, believe it or not, she's a Chelsea fan. Funny enough, and they'll tell me about it, and I have to live with her. But the only, as I said, after Hillsborough, I never went to any away games ever again, and the only one I went to was Istanbul, but not the Champions League final. It was a couple of years back. It was the Super Cup thing where Liverpool were playing Chelsea in this like Super Cup thing. I went to that, and that was the first away game that I've been to since Hillsborough. What can I say?
Did it help you at all? Like being
it did. It did in a way, I say, because I just remember just staring around, looking at everyone, and all the excitement and all that again. And it was a good feeling, to be there. And obviously, grounds are much safer. I was never like scared of my safety or anything like that. I just didn't want to bring up all the bad memories and all that. And we never just went for the game. We made like a little mini break and holiday out of it. So there was other things to do. And that was just like the icing on the cake. Oh, I'll tell you what, as well, this year, I did go to a game. Me and Kim again went to see Anderlecht in Belgium and Union, Union who were playing Liverpool in the UEFA thing. We seen them at Anderlecht's grounds. So we went to that one as well. But that's again because we were just over there on a break and we decided to go and watch a football game. As you do. You're from Liverpool, as you do. Let's go watch a football game.
Yeah. I mean, on holiday, like when my parents used to take us to Spain a lot, Switzerland, Belgium, we'd always find, a local team just to go watch,
Yeah.
But I mean, back to like away days are some of the best days of my life, just because you're traveling with your mates, and it's so different here because in America, I mean, with the American football, it's such a massive country. You're not really traveling with your mates because you're taking different planes or a Greyhound to get to from say Dallas to New York, so you don't get the path.
It's not like a road movie. It's not like and that's half the fun, isn't it, as well? It was when you were going with your mates to away games and that. It was like a little road movie, going to Yorkshire. You could be the other side of the world. We're all going to Hillsborough, we're all going. But I used to love that as well. I used to love going to a lot of the away games, and especially in the FA Cup, to some of the smaller teams. You go to York or somewhere like that. It was great fun. was great.
Well, I mean,
I used to go to Villa Park a lot for some reason. I don't know why. I
I'd
always ended up in Villa Park for some reason.
but I mean, back then it was a different time though, because coming off the trains, you were met by the opposing fans automatically, and on the way back as well.
Yeah,
It was a different time, but like hearing some of the stories, like my granddad went to Rome in '77,
yeah,
and just some of the stories that came out of his mouth were like, me nan would put her hands over my ears and be like,
yeah,
don't be telling him that. And
yeah,
you just hear, I didn't go to Istanbul either, but you get, some of my mates went, told me, it was a trek. And then I had some mates that went to Kiev as well.
Well, my son, obviously, I brought him up Liverpool and everything, and he got in as. I always had 2 season tickets because you could get them back in them days. And then what I started doing was I've got 2 boys, so I'll alternate each week with them. One you're going to that game and you'll go to the next game and alternate. And obviously, they grew up, avid Liverpool fans. Dan's still only in his 20s now, and he was in Kiev. He was in Istanbul. He will go anywhere to see them. No matter where it is in the world or whatever, which is great because it reminds me of when we were younger. But then obviously there was that big, periods of isolation where we couldn't go anywhere because the ban, the self-imposed ban and everything. So Europe was completely ruled out and everything, and the game has changed. And I suppose in many ways, you kind of, I think it went through a bit like what you were saying before, actually, Tazza. I think I fell out of love with it a little bit after that. And not with my club, just with the whole thing, the footballer thing. I went through a bit, obviously of what had happened. I never ever gave up my tickets or anything like that. I never fell out of love that bad. Tried to make the marriage work, with me and my club. And it did, come through. And I'm just thankful I didn't give up. Because to this day, I still, I adore the sport.
Well, it's just like you say, it's a marriage of, love and hate at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't get rid of her, Yeah, it's always in your life, I've had good times, I've had bad times at Liverpool, but I'd never divorce her.
Yeah, exactly.
No chance. Well, I want to get into your musical side now.
Okay.
So again, we're going way back. So you started China Crisis in, is it 79, 80?
People say 79. It wasn't really 79. It was the first records actually came out in 81. So we basically started around about 1980. And 81, 82 was the first single. We released a song called African and White on, funny enough, a small local independent label called Inevitable Records, which was based out of Kirby. And on that label, Inevitable Records, it had ourselves, it had War Heat, it had Dead or Alive, and it had a group called the Tin Material, or the Yachts, before they became the Tin Material, and then eventually became the Christians or whatever. So it was a little niche little label. It was very cool. It was distributed by Rough Trade Records, who were responsible for loads of all that distribution, from everything from all the punk records to Elvis Costello to Stiff Record. They were the major distributors with Rough Trade. We had one single with them, African White. And then the likes of John Peel, Janice Long, Peter Powell, Kid Jensen, all these, cool Radio 1 presenters at the time picked up on African White and started playing it. It was so unusual at the time. It was so different from what people were doing. and singing about apartheid and all that kind of thing. Way back then when Mandela was still in jail. So it went through the roof. And then Virgin Records come in and signed us. And as they say, the rest is history, really. It went from strength really, from there.
Well, I mean, you've been in the business now 40 plus years, which is amazing. Yeah. You're still going. Who were some of your musical influences back then?
Back then? Well, I mean, the whole reason why I got into music in the first place was because of David Bowie. Growing up with David Bowie, was just I was a huge fan of Bowie. I remember me and Gary, my partner in China, we hitchhiked to London to see him on Earl's Court in the 70s, and we were just fascinated by him. But then the early 80s came along, and funny enough, unlike the football, they used to like a couple of Manchester groups early on, like a group called Magazine. They were a great band. Certain Ratio, very kind of indie kind of bands. And then I absolutely adored the Talking Heads, and that, what the Talking Heads were doing. I thought they were just incredible. And I loved them from 77, from the first album, 77, and more songs about buildings and foods. But when they got to Remain in Light, that was it for me. It really peaked. I just thought they were, possibly the best bands on the planet. But there was loads of great stuff. We were very lucky in the early days after we did, I think, the second album, Working with Fire and Steel. But we got to tour with everyone. We toured with the Police. We did a lot of tours with Simple Minds. We toured with Bowie. So working with your hero was incredible. And when I was growing up in school and all that, even before that, before becoming a professional or whatever, I used to love the likes of like Steely Dan, and they were like one of my favourite bands. And getting to work with Steely Dan doing a couple of albums was just insane. It was great. So we've been very lucky throughout our career. Really, we've got to work with some great people and some people that like totally inspired us when we were younger as well.
Yeah, I mean, Bowie probably is on a lot of people's lips. Same with me. I never got to see him. I wish I did, but I mean, must have been surreal. I mean, to be on the bill with him.
To play with Bowie.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's even weirder than that, because how this all came about was we were doing, I think it was our fourth album, it was then, called What Price Paradise, and we were recording it with Langer and Winstanley. They were the producers. And Langer and Winstanley were responsible for all of Madness's hits, Elvis Costello, Robert White, Robert Wyatt, Shipbuilding, Dexys Midnight Runners, Come On Eileen, all that kind of thing. But they also did Absolute Beginners for Bowie. He produced that. So we were in the studio recording our album, and who turns up at the studio but David Bowie, and sat in on the session with us and listened to the album, what we were just recording, and turned around and said he loved it, and turned around and said, do you want to come on tour with us then? And we went, yeah, thinking, oh, people just say that and you're never going to hear nothing again. You're never going to hear nothing again. And true to his words, a few months later, when the album had come out and Bowie announced his tour, we got the call to, well, are you coming there or not? So, yeah, we are. So it was incredible, So that was lovely. What a great man, yeah.
Yeah, I've just, you hear so many stories, like all good stories about Bowie, just being just down to earth,
Oh, incredible.
Not the unreachable rock star as, today's rock stars seem to be untouchable. Back then, it was a bit more, down to earth. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine like words wouldn't come out of my mouth if he stood in front of me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can tell you a funny story there, but I don't know whether it's funny enough for your podcast. Am I allowed to say it on your podcast?
Hey, it's your story, so if you want to tell it.
I'll tell you a funny Bowie story. That the day he come to the studio to see us, right? My brother worked for us. He was one of the roadies for China Crisis, and in the hallway in the studio, they had a pool table where you play pool when you weren't recording or doing whatever. So David Bowie walked into the room with his girlfriend, then later become his wife, Iman, right? And my brother was like a huge Bowie fan. So he's bending over just about to take this shot, right? And he looks up and then he does a double take and goes, Jesus Christ. And Bowie turns around and goes, close. He was just an amazing guy.
I actually thought you were going to say you hit him with the snooker ball.
No. He just, and then my brother turns around and goes, David, does your birds want a drink? And then Bowie just turned out and said, I don't know, ask her. It's very funny. But yeah, great taste. Great taste.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, again, being in the business for 40 plus years, you know, obviously music has changed. Like money wise, you know, touring is your bread and butter. So you've been doing it for so long. How does that affect your mental health? You know, because I listened to a really good podcast, Justin Hawkins from The Darkness. Right. He has a brilliant podcast, and he was just talking about, you know, the drugs and alcohol, how, you know, it took a hold of him, and, you know, for him to get on stage, he needed to take drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
And for you, I mean, obviously, you know, different story, different times, but I mean, you know, getting up, doing your gig, getting on that coach, you know, hotel or sleeping on the bus, and then another gig. How does that affect you?
You know what, we handle it quite well. I mean, I'll be a liar to say that you don't get stressed from time to time and you want to be home and all that. I think it takes a certain breed of people, actually, because the amount of, we're fortunate. Okay, China Crisis is me and Gary, and then all the other band members and everything, they're usually session players and all that. Me and Gary were the songwriters, were the ones who got signed to the label. No one else was signed. Basically, Gary and Eddie at China Crisis, and then everyone else is kind of employed by them, session musicians. Now, the amount, you have no idea the amount of musicians that we've gone through in that time period, because people, they could barely do one tour. You know, got to go home, got to. And that's the weird thing about music, is that you can be as talented as whatever, you know, but you need all them other ingredients. You need, it's not just about having the talent. It's about having the commitment. It's about having the resilience, you know, and just basically, you know, I don't want to sound too far, but you know, sometimes it takes a lot of backbone, you know, when you're halfway across the States for 3 months or something like that, and people just want to get home and they don't want to, you know, so it's not for everyone. Fortunately, we were kind of weird because we never started off as a touring band. We started off as a songwriting duo. You know, it wasn't really until we got to our second album that we started touring, that we had to put a band together. It was actually the record company said to us, don't you think you should get a band together because you've got hits in Germany and Spain and, you know, all over the world, and you just never go and play. You don't promote them, you don't do anything. And that's because we were a songwriting duo. So it was them who suggested to us. So we got the band together. We went on tour with Simple Minds, and then we ended up touring with Simple Minds a lot, going all over the world with them. ended up with the same management company as them. And then I think we just, and I kid you not, when we first started, we stood there on stage like statues, and was like, basically in fear, like a rabbit in the headlights, didn't know what to do, just playing the songs and getting off as quick as you could. But obviously, the more you do it and the more experience you get, over time, it's just like a confidence thing, I think. We really, really enjoy it now. We love it. So I love going to different cities. I love going to places all over the world. I adore that and seeing new things and absorbing the culture of the places and, the people that are there and the foods that are there and the different audiences that are there. So I love all that. And I find that like a really important part of what we do. So we enjoy it so much.
Well, I think, you get to meet so many new people, but you get to see the same old people as well. You make friends in every city, as they say.
You do. But I'll tell you what, though, this, when it does become like the treadmill and all that, fortunately now at our stage, when we're getting to cool cities, if we're going to Vancouver or we're going to New York, fortunately now we're in a position where we can go, okay, we want a couple of days off there before we do the next gig and see it. But I kid you not, I'd been to like New York about 5 times before I'd seen anything. Literally used to get off the bus, go on the gig, finish the gig, back on the bus, and you were out of there. And, I've been to New York. I haven't seen anything, but I've been. But now, now we spend a lot of time in these places and make sure that we do because we can kind of dictate our own timetable now. But back in the day, you couldn't do that. You weren't allowed to. You were on the bus and off to your next city.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, with these younger bands now, you get in the camper van or whatever you do, you get to the gig when it's dark and you get back in when it's dark and off to the next city. So you have the ability now to enjoy, like I know you're in Austin not too long ago, and I'm so
just
pissed off I didn't get to the gig, but I know you're playing San Antonio in December. So I'm going to try and come to that gig. It's during the week, so that's a school night for me for the kiddos. But I'm going to try and come down for that. Where's Austin? Where's San Antonio? It's down or up. Texas is so damn big. It takes like 10 hours.
It really is.
Yeah, it's insane. But I mean, it's great that you still put out music, you still bring people joy, and that's got to make you so happy. I
absolutely love it. We've been doing it since we were kids, haven't we? It's what we. It's just what we do. It's what we do. So I enjoy it. I enjoy having time off in places now, and like what you said earlier on about younger bands and young, I won't say like super successful bands, but I'd say, younger ones working the way up the ladder and all that. It must be so difficult for them, as you say, to get off the bus when it's dark, back on it's just a treadmill, and I wouldn't like it under them situations. I'd hate to do that. So we try, the tours might take a little bit longer now because we like a bit of time off wherever we go. But hey, that's the way it is.
Well, I mean, like, I was refreshed actually this week. I don't know if you've checked the UK albums. There's one lad who I've watched his career progress in the last like 3-4 years. His name's Ren, and he's a little Welsh lad. Well, I mean, I think he's about 30 now, but he's just got the new UK #1.
Really?
He's done it all independently, and I love that. It's all been social media.
In the album charts?
Yeah, he beat out Rick Astley.
Right, let me tell you the weird story. Right, okay. This is in the last month. This is only 2 weeks ago. another company in the UK licensed our first album off Virgin Records. That was out 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they put the album out about a month ago. And they sent us the clip. We were number 10 in the UK charts 2 weeks ago with an album that we did 40 years ago. How mental is that? You know, and it's
that's the time
back in the charts.
Yeah, I mean, it just fills me with joy though, because you know the music industry is so cutthroat. You know, you hear about a lot of bands, they get this deal and they're pretty much ripped off. You know, I mean, one sense while the record company gets, you know, I mean, is the music industry how it really works? Is they give you like it's not a blank check, but they give like
it's an advance,
an advance, and then you have to pay your own promotion, right?
Well, it works different ways. Okay, for one, times are different now, so not many actual physical copies are sold these days. A lot of it's done on streaming. But back in our day, how it worked, because you know, you'd have to sell hundreds of thousands of records, you know, just to get into the charts and that. So how it worked, you'd sign a deal with like Virgin, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. And they would give you so much money. Hypothetically, they give you £100,000 to go away to record the album, right? Now, when you sign a deal, you sign it's like 85, 15%. You only get 15%, the record company gets 85%, right? So say an album's £10, right? They get £8.50 clear profit. And for your £1.50, you don't get that until you pay back the £100,000 that you borrowed off them to record it, and all the promotion, and the video, and the sleeves, and the manufacturing, and the tour support, and the radio plugger, and the TV plugger, and the press. So you can see how it mounts up. So that's why bands never earn a penny off the actual albums, because you'd have to sell 1 million albums to get your first £1.50.
Yeah, that's just mental. That's why I think we all remember Prince putting "slave" on his face because he was sick and tired of Sony.
Yeah, he changed his name to Symbol.
Yeah, you know, and you know, kudos to him for what he did. But yeah, you just see all these upcoming bands that are screwed over. You know, because that first album.
They always have been. The only way that you made money in them days is through your and still to this day actually is through your radio plays and that, you know, your publishing, your PRS and all that kind of stuff. That's because every time a radio plays your song, you get so much money, and that's how you make your money. So you make money off your publishing, but you wouldn't actually make any money at all off your record sales. Bizarre.
Yeah, that's crazy, but it's nice to hear, like, you know, because I'm a big vinyl person, just because I love the feel, the touch, the sound of vinyl. But it's the artwork that, you know, back in our day, we'd spend hours and hours in a record shop just going through it.
Just going through them. And you'd often buy things just by the sleeve. You wouldn't even know what it sounded like. You just go, that's a great sleeve.
Yeah, but just by the artwork, you know, you were just drawn to it. And I mean, you'd get home, some of them would be like, good God, what is this crap? Yeah. But, you know, the artwork was good. But, you know, I'm glad to see that the younger generation are starting to buy more vinyl now, which is really nice. Rather than,
you know what you said before about your money to be made in touring and that. I mean, our last album, Autumn in the Neighborhoods, it's the only album. Well, we've just finished another one literally this week that we'll be putting out soon. But it's the only actual album that we actually own. The record labels own all the stuff that we've done. So we can manufacture that album, the last one that we did ourselves, and we refuse to sign it to a record label, because for what? You know, to get 15% or 20% off them? Don't think so. I'm too old for that. So what we did is we kept it ourselves, manufactured it ourselves, sell them at the shows ourselves, and you're making money from your records that you never ever made when you were with the major record labels. You know, it's insane.
Back in your own pocket, you know, not somebody in a high rise office building. You know, getting another Lamborghini for themselves.
Yeah, but we did that Virgin. They used to collect Aston Martin TB9s or whatever, TB5s or something.
Well, you're still on a bicycle.
Yeah, well, I'm getting the bus down there in the team in rain.
Well, before we wrap this up, I always like to ask my musical guest, your like ultimate festival headliners, alive or dead, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it can conclude
So like ones that we've played as well.
Well, I'm saying like if you know your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, alive or dead, like, you know, I've had some musical guests go, oh well, I'd play on a Friday night, you know, just a headline Friday, and then have like Bob Dylan on a Saturday, Bob Marley on a Sunday. So what would your three nights
be? Obviously Bowie's going up. Do you know, you've mentioned a couple of them. I'll just say the best people I've ever seen, and Bowie being one of them, Prince being another. Incredible performer. Really enjoyed seeing him. Do you know we toured with Santana in America?
Yeah.
That was weird. That was weird. Okay, so Friday night would be, okay, just turn up to the festival for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Who my team would be? Bowie. Prince. Steely Dan. Love Steely Dan still. You can see they're all from a certain generation there, aren't they?
Mm.
I mean, I do. I still love a lot of music and a lot of newer music. But yeah, I'd say that'd be my perfect weekend headliners.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't say Talking Heads.
Oh yeah, the Talking Heads would be there. I'd have to reform the Talking Heads. They'd definitely be there.
Well, maybe we'll put another stage on for you, and we'll put Talking Heads. But
what me and Kim did, funny enough, just this year in January, we went over to New York and seen the David Byrne Utopia thing. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got this. He's doing. It's like, I think he's on for about a year. You know, and like on Broadway in one of them theatres, just doing all the David Byrne stuff, a lot of Talking Head stuff and that. So we went over and seen that. So I have seen David Byrne this year, but I've never seen the Talking Heads as a unit. But that'd be a blessing. That'd be brilliant.